So, good evening to everybody. I'm Pier Vittorio Aureli, and I'm director of the Institute of Architecture and also of professor here at the School of Architecture. It's really a pleasure to have our last lecture for the neighborhood lecture series. As you know, it's a lecture series organized by three labs, ITAM, directed by Alfredo Thiermann, TEMA, directed by Sarah Nichols, and TPOD, which is directed by myself. And so the idea of Neighbors, as you know, is really to offer to the school a series of lectures that focus on historical and theoretical issues related to architecture. It's a great pleasure and great honor to have Professor Giorgio Gianighian, who is really one of the world experts on Venice, on the architecture of Venice, especially I just want to mention his pioneering work on Venice housing. His book, Dietro I Palazzi, for us is almost like a cult book. It's a very important study that really focus on the architecture of housing. Venice was one of the very first cities to really heavily invest in what we can call mass housing. And this is something that is not very well known, and Professor Gianighian really has shed very important light on this phenomenon. But before I go further with my presentation, I would like to give the floor to Theodora, because the idea to invite Professor Gianighian came from her. So Theodora, maybe you should.
So she's responsible.
It's her fault. So you have to blame her for coming to Lausanne. And, yeah.
Thank you so much. And I joined Pier Vittorio in welcoming Professor Gianighian. Just a brief introduction, because you have a long career and a great one. So Professor Gianighian is an architect and the vice director of the International Research Center for Architectural Heritage Conservation at Shanghai Jiangtao University. But before that, he was and still is full professor at UAV in Venice, where he is a leading figure in the field of architectural conservation. And as Pier Vittorio mentioned, the work of Professor Gianighian is extensive. He has published over 100 works on architectural history and restoration. And as Pier Vittorio mentioned, I must admit it's really a personal pleasure to have you here today, because your work has been of great influence for my PhD work. So tonight's lecture, titled Double Houses in Renaissance Venice, invites us to look more closely at a fascinating and often overlooked domestic type that first appeared in the 16th century. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Professor Gianighian for tonight's lecture. Thank you.
Usually these kind of presentations they do when somebody flies away. But I am still alive, hopefully. And it's my joy to talk about those topics. Do you know why? Because I was so angry with the big masters of my university, Manfredo Tafuri, and the other fullest professors, because they were studying just the palaces, just the churches, just the major buildings. But without the other 90%, which is the rest of the buildings, you understand not much. So you go towards the political approach to architectural history. The Doge, the Duke of Venice, or the Cardinal, or this or that. You find place to explore this in relation with architecture. But architecture is produced by bricks, by timber, by clay and other things, by the smell of the sweat of the workers. So we will do an investigation today. It's very important, the smell of workers, You are laughing down there, but it's very strong. So what we are going to talk is these kind of things. So I thought that following the work that my master did, Egle Renata Trincanato, a fantastic lady, she was studying, she published in 1948, Minor Venice. And that one was really pioneering, because nobody did it before. Again, churches, convents, palaces, and so forth, public houses. She did it, and it was, for me, it was an explosion of interest. And so I went on forever, up to this moment. And every time I'm digging, because the research goes on, if you continue digging things, you will see that in a while. There is always something, some mistake to correct in what you have said before and even published. I'm sorry, it happens. Something that you have to add to the knowledge. For instance, the Venetian foundations of the buildings are continuous. The plinth is continuous. Well, 10 years ago, I found the first example which denies this theory. And a year ago, in Castelforte San Rocco, I found another one, which is not true. So we are going along with funny things which are not true. So keep digging for the rest of your days, because something new will come out, enlightening, and to make things more comprehensible to our knowledge. Then, if you have to intervene as an architect on this kind of buildings, if you don't know anatomy, if you don't know pathology, how can you cure the health of your patients, these kind of patients? Well, let's start. Last night, I was at the Fenice Theater with the opera by Giuseppe Verdi, Attila. You have heard of Attila, of course. And the beginning, the first part, was in the Venice lagoon, where Attila, and he arrived, he raped a few women, and he did nasty things. But they were singing about and musicking about this kind of landscape. What does it mean? This was Venice before Venice. This kind of barracks or shacks or little things. You can even see a cow, a horse there somewhere. Venice, the first miracle of Venice was that after 3 enormous sea devastations of the former Roman landscape, which was Centuriato, it came out the water everywhere, and little islands. In some places, a little bit higher, they came out. That's it. We are talking about the first 1,000 years of our era. And so in dark, you see the few islands emerging from the sea. The sea is not the sea, it's the lagoon is different from the sea. Then, going on, we have to run a little bit, sorry, because we have 171 images. So you see that in time, slowly, this reclamation of land became progressive and filling up all the gaps. This image is absolutely fantastic. This is a pointer, maybe. No. So I have to use my finger. The pointer, look at this area here. Well, you see the little houses there, south, east. Do you see 3 lines of piles in the water of the lagoon? And what is written there is luogo da atterrar, site to be reclaimed. So this is the way of doing reclamations. From a natural landscape, which is the roundish where they built the barracks, nearby there is a place, a site, it's written there, the mountain of horns, because because it was a slaughterhouse. They were killing animals and throwing the unused things, and so there was a mountain. But then the regularity of this, oh, here is very, very clear. Luogo da atterrare. And the mountain of horns on the right-hand side. So this is the reclamation of land all around the periphery of Venice, but also inside, in the city itself. The city itself, the non-city becoming city, had lakes, which were called lakes. Lacus Badovarium, the lake belonging to the family Barovier, and so forth. Slowly, slowly, they reclaimed land. How? Like that. Driving piles, into the lagoon, creating a sort of a barrier, and then filling it with land. Here is the same. You see the piles, you see the banging, and you see that this place is becoming an orchard on the right-hand side, and then a city. This is a limit of a bonification, of a reclamation of land of the early 13th century. The canal was emptied to remove the mud, which is something that you should do every 10 years, because all the sewage goes into the canal. And so it fills up the things. And you see the piles there, creating the land to build later on the church of San Marziale. And that's the way. That's the way. You see the piles, you see a double layer of boards, thick boards underneath, then the plinth of the wall, creating a separation between the lagoon water and the land. Land to be walked on, to be built with houses, churches, palaces, and so forth. And that's it. Ca Gussoni, middle of 16th century, you see, what do you have underneath? A forest of piles. So this is a good image because it shows you with a script, piano delle case. It's not written piano, floor of a palace. It's written floor of a house. So it's a minor building, let's say, facing a canal, paludo, water, and you see the piles. Piles driven one very next to the other, and then double layer of boards. And up to it, you will build your foundation, which will reach on the fascia, and the porta, which is the floor, which is the door of the house. That's it. If you put a measure, the squares are feet, Venetian feet. 1 foot is 35 centimeters, more or less, 34.77, somebody may say. So you can see that this foundation, apart from the piles, is 3.6 meters high, double my height, without shoes. Okay? So you can imagine the amount of work needed for such a site. So that's it. The amount of materials, the amount of sweat of the workers. This is the miracle of Venice. A reclamation of land right in the center, the new lands of Santa Maria Maggiore. You see them. There is just a little shack there. Maybe it's a little chapel. And the rest of it is already built. This is the project to build the first of the 4 islands, the one facing south, early 16th century, and you see that it's already, the reclamation of land is run by the Republic of Venice. It's public, this. And also all the fondamenta, the paved roads along the water, the bridges, everything is planned by the state. And then they chop it into slices and they started selling it. In their hands remained the upper part of it, you see the 3 lines, to build poor houses by the procurators of the Republic were ministers of the Republic, extremely high position. They were running the country, running the land. Houses for the poor people, impotenti, incapaci, without an arm, without a leg because of the battlefields and things like that. Then at south, you have in that funny trapezoidal shape, you have a plot of land which was sold to, I forgot, the School of San Marco, I think. Correct? Thank you. And with the money of a gentleman who said, I want to build 24 houses there for the poor people, but I don't want to build the normal ones for the poor people. We will talk about that. I am left-oriented. You will recognize that later on when I will talk about staircases. The staircase of the wealthy, the staircase of the middle class, and the staircase of the poor. Which one is steeper? You can imagine. Which one is risky? You can imagine as well. So he said, I want to build 24 houses with a courtyard in the middle. And in the middle of the courtyard, I want to build a wellhead, a cistern, to provide water. That if they were to be lent, they will provide 10 or 12 ducats per year. While per month. While the very poor people, the rental will be 2, 3, 4 ducats, much lower. So he wanted something right. And he wanted also to have those houses à la Corbusier. A line, the ground floor, staircase with the kitchen and the entrance and the room, staircase, another 2 rooms on top of it. And even the attic will be occupied by that. So they wanted something good. Then the court of San Rocco, the white image, almost a quadrangular shape. And then you have the darkest, more or less in the middle, which was sold to Paolo Danna, who was the head of a school of San Rocco, leading position. And he bought it, the land, he built the houses, you will see them later on. And then something happened to him. He lost an enormous amount of money in the failure, in the bankruptcy of the bank, Pisani dal Banco, and he lost all his money, he died. And there is a letter of his wife, his widow, who writes to the school saying, please give me a little house. I am the widow of Paolo Danna, your former head of the school, because I'm here poor with my figlio impotente, disabled son, and I need your help. The flat was provided to her. So you have also social imagery in these kind of things, which can help to understand better architecture. This is the reclamation of land at the end of the 16th century, with all the houses already built. You can see in the middle, on the left-hand side, the convent, the nunnery of the Santa Maria Maggiore, now is the jail, the building has been destroyed. And then you have other terraced houses with almshouses. First, middle, last on the left. The Sansovino worked here in the courtyard house of the last one on the left. And so you have also important architects. Or another reclamation of land is Seco Marina. You see that it looks very much like Verona, more or less. A Roman kind of planning, regular rectangulars. And this was in 1523 to 30. The land was reclaimed and sold at very low price to the workers of the arsenal, because the arsenal was nearby. And there is a letter of one, again, a widow, writing to the Republic, asking help. And she said that I'm living here with my 3 sons, and if I was not the owner of this flat, which Manoli da Candia, Manoli is Manolos in Greek, da Candia is Creta, right? He left me to us, and I suffered a lot the lack of water. Morimo de sete, we are diving of come si dice sete? Thirst, thank you. So the Republic decided in 10 years later, in the 1547, to build a cistern for the poor people of the environment. So, reclamations of land, you see the Giudecca on the left, all that is reclaimed. You see other projects on top of it. In green is the reclamation of land. And in this project, the architect wanted to make a sort of fondamenta, a street on the water all around the city. The last important reclamation of land is the one of le fondamenta nuove, the new embankments. In yellow, you have the reclamation of land. And what is very strange is that something is lacking in that kind of planning. Let's go back for a while, or here. You see that the urban grain here, if you look at carefully, you can see that you have many, many holes. You need places, empty places, to collect water, to build your cistern. But in this case here, in the yellow, there is only one empty area. The rest of it is intensely built. Why there is just one? Because he's the inventor of this reclamation of land. The Doge, Leonardo Donà. And it's his palace. Now, you may remember this, the ancient mariner. And this is the second point of my lecture, the lack of water. Lack of drinking water. So all the Campo, San Giacomo d'Allorio or San Trovaso, each one has a cistern for the poor people. The cistern was self-refilled by the rainwater collected by the roofs and the paving, which went inside the cistern itself. Or, in case of drought, especially in wintertime, the water was this in 1611, 1613, an aqueduct was built, which didn't reach Venice, no, it reached the coast of Venice. You see, where I designed the red lines here. The water arrives there. And the first way was il carro, the chart. The boats were coming from Venice with botti. Barrels, thank you, in water. You can see them one on the boat at right. And this mechanism, the water, the boats will be lifted and the plan will be declined on the other way, and the boats will reach a higher place where they will get the aqua from the Brenta River. They will fill the barrels, and they will do the reverse operation, and then pulling the boats to Venice. La Seriola. So, the boat brought the water, and from the boat they filled up with this cistern, very simple, the cisterns in case of need. This is a Venetian cistern, which has the drawing is very nice. Do you have our little book? Venezia Come?
Not here, sorry.
You have it. It's here with me. This is one of the drawings of that booklet. We call it the booklet. I wrote it with my wife. And underneath that dark color is the clay. Let's go to a more scientific drawing. You see, up, it's sort of a cup. It's a basin, waterproofed with clay, 50 centimeters of clay, balls of clay thrown on the sides of the excavation, beaten in order to create the waterproofing. Then, in the middle, they will insert a round slab of stone supporting the shaft in bricks, which are just one on the other. Then, half work, you will stop, and you will start filling it with sand brought from the rivers, because from the seaside, it will be salty, and you will spend money and energy to wash it. So, then you will build a gallery, you see the gallery, all around the shaft, with 4 points in which the water will get inside. The 4 pilelle, perforated slabs of stone, after the creation of the paving, which was a sort of a roof, with slopes, bringing all the rainwater inside the gallery. The first dirt in the gallery will be stopped. The water will penetrate inside the gallery and slowly will go through the joints of the masonry. And from that, it will go inside the sand. This is a filtering cistern. Why a filtering cistern? Because the land in Venice has very low bearing capacity. You understood from the foundation I presented you, which is 3 meters 60 high. Why? Because in poor land, poor bearing land, you have to do a very large basis of your foundation plinth. So then by gravity, slowly, slowly, the water will be cleaned and go into the shaft. And on top of the shaft, you will insert a nice wellhead, and that's the water. It took me 35 years to discover who invented the Venetian filtering system. I asked it to Ghedini, head of the Department of Classic Archaeology in Padua University, very distinguished lady, to Barker, archaeologists in St. John's College in Cambridge. They were digging in Africa, Libya and places like that, if they knew something about that. And both told me, no, we haven't seen them. We saw empty cisterns, an empty chamber, where you collect the water brought by rivers, and then you use it. You take it from the dry cistern. But this is in 2nd century our times, at the depth of 6 meters now, at the bottom of the Canale di San Rio, Canal of Lio Piccolo Canal, submarine archaeologists, they found it. They found it, they surveyed it, they restored it in some way, leaving, of course, where it is. And that's it. This is the Venetian cistern. Roman. Everything is Roman in Venice. I mean, ancient Roman. So, in this case, it's a box covered. The box is built with sesquipedali, the big Roman bricks. And also, the upper part now disappeared, of course, was covered. But at the right end, you see the shaft. And you see the sand. You know how it's called the cleaning place of that one? The sand in the middle here. It was called sponza, the sponge, collecting water, you know, the sponge. So, Roman, the intelligence, the cleverness of the Venetians was to copy a Roman project respecting the site, respecting Venice. So now outside in the squares, as I saw one in Cartagena de Indias, one of this kind of cisterns, also in a watery environment. But they said, if we are going to do that one, we will lose land. So they just pushed it, they pressed it underneath the land. And it came out the Venetian cistern with the paving. Or, now you have a large example. This is the Roman museum in Altino. Those bricks are the bricks of the shaft. Those are the pilelle, the slabs to get the water. And even St. Mark's Square had a cistern, which was ruined. It's the one that's irregular shape with a circle in the middle. And so Sansovino was called, I think in the 1530s, to restore it. And he did the restoration, spending a lot of money. But at the end, it didn't work. After a while, it was filled by mosconi nerastri e puzzolenti, which means big flies, blackish, very big, blackish, and very stinky. So they covered, and it's still there, all the part of it. Here you have the Procuratie Nuove, we're going to talk about that, here and there. The houses of the procurators, Procuratie Vecchia on top of it, and we are approaching the Basilica of St. Mark's on the right-hand side. The houses, the palaces, each palace had at least one cistern. And look at the iron ropes to bring the water from the wellhead up to the first, second, third floor. Because, you know, a bucket of water, or 2 buckets of water, the weight will be 20 and 20 kilos. So they will have an engine and will take it up. So in late 13th century, there is a decree, a law of the Senate in Venice, in which all the houses, old and new, must be provided with a stone gutter. That's the gutter in stone, the white, you see? This is a medieval one. Gothic, early Gothic. In order to improve the circulation in the boats, in the canals, because the water was spread into the canals, but also in the streets. And I add, but also to increase the getting of water, fresh water. Why to waste it? And so those houses, that's the ancient roof, strongly rebuilt 100 years ago, more or less. But it was getting out from, it was throwing water in the campo. This is a good example. Nearby, there is another one, which has the old roof on the right-hand side. You see that it's projecting into the campo. And you see the mutilation of that part on the left. And the insertion of the stone gutter. From the stone gutter, the campi, every campi. So the problem of collection of water was immense here. because there was a need of it, right? This is my school, my former school, I Tolentini. Again, Corte Bottera, another one. Not palaces, but still. You see that the grain of the city is spongy because those holes are needed to collect water. But something strange appears here in a catalog of the cisterns, late 19th century, where the catalog is talking about external cisterns and internal cisterns. Strange. Well, this is another cistern raised up because the raise of the water in Venice, so they raise also the cistern. And when the acqua alta, the flooding, will ruin the cistern, a special squad will come from the arsenal. They will insert this primitive pump, and they are removing the salty water from the cistern, and then, utilizing fresh water, they will clean the cistern, utilizing the pilelle, so all the sand will lose the salt, and that's it. This is a survey of all the cisterns. But now we have to talk about the son of Jacopo Sansovino, and he says that, you can read it. I hate presentations when the speaker reads and also you read. So you read it and you know. The double Venice. He simply says that because of the campi, the squares, look it below it, it's in English, with that space you could build the second Venice. Another idea, the double Venice, by Francesco Sansovino. So now we have to talk about the miracle of the double house. Listen, the double house was invented just in medieval times. Romanic palaces with two noble floors. For the two brothers, they will share the entrance, or they may even have separate entrances from the water and from the land. Two noble floors, one on top of the other. Each one will have their own staircases because they wanted privacy. So let's double. We even have a few remains designed, drawn by John Ruskin of a terraced house, Gothic, early Gothic, which is double. Two noble floors. What does it mean, noble? It means simply higher. It's higher. Instead of 7 or 8 feet, it will be 9 or 10 feet. So 3 meters 10, 3 meters 50 each floor. And then you will have a top floor, mezzanine, for the servants, where they will sleep, the servants. So this is the house, built in 1547, I would say, yes. Case Capello, noble family, very wealthy. And with the 4 colors, you can distinguish how it worked. Start with the ground floor, where is written Calle Capello, 4 colors, 4 entrances. Blue, yellow, green, and red. This is the drawing of my master, Trincanato. I added the colors, and I added also the internal 2 rings in the masonry in the middle. You see them, right? Because she didn't design them. Probably she knew it. And then Mr. Verdi enters, Verdi is green in Italian, enters right in the middle right, and has the entrance, has that half a ring, we will explain it in a second or two, and then a storage for the wine and for whatever. Mrs. Red has a broader bay. You see that the house is divided in 4 bays. It's a 4-bayed house. The 2 side ones are larger. The center ones are narrower. Why? We will discover it in a moment. She enters, she has another half of the shaft, and then nice entrance and a larger storage area. The other 2 are symmetrical, so no need to explain them. Now, Lady Red, with 1 flight of stairs, arrives. I'm talking about the plan top right. She arrived in her house, in her flat, which is, you can see it in the elevations. You see that in the first noble floor, you have a double window, which provides light through the portico, which means the most important place of the house. Double window. And from the double window, you have the master's bedroom on the right, with a hearth for the chimney, for the heating. Then you have the kitchen, another hearth on top right, and then another room. Mr. Green starts in the middle, 1 flight of stairs. He reaches, you see it in the side elevation. He reaches at the first floor just 1 little strip of green, which is to provide light to the staircase. And then with the second flight, now please go to the image where you see Mr. Green's apartment. Okay, on the right-hand side of the 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm talking about the 3. And you have the same. Absolutely the same. The same shaft, the same for the same chimneys in the master bedroom and in the kitchen, and other things are the same. We'll talk about that later. He continues to climb, and he reaches. There was communism in Venice in the Renaissance. You see that the area of the Mr. Green, which was smaller at the ground floor, now is bigger on the top floor in the mezzanine. So that the area is more or less 300 square meters each. As the money they paid, the yearly, I was wrong before I said ducats per month, per year. Here they paid 40 ducats per year. Equal communism. The 4. Equal area, equal money, equal houses. This is a double house, which was, this is a beautiful drawing of my master. I added the colors again, and I added the cistern, which is wrong. Don't take pictures of that one, it's my mistake. You see the gallery in the cistern? The cistern is correct. It goes between the plinth of the foundations. But the gallery, which is called il cassone, I forgot to tell you, the big box where there was the first cleaning of it, of the water, that one is wrong. My first article, quite thick actually, I wrote in 1983-84. It's Canoni d'acqua, canoni da necessario, scarichi veneziani in età moderna, which I'm dealing with these kind of things, the water supply, the toilets, and other things. So by that time, I was ignorant. I was more ignorant than I am now. Still a bit ignorant. Keep digging, you will find more. Always, really. So when you say, please, if I may suggest you, we say, so far we know that. Okay? What I mean is, don't say, Venetian house is like that. Because you always discover that there is another one, which is not that. It's different. But this is the model anyhow. This is the model of the double house. Could be bigger, could be smaller, but this is it. And look at the shaft, cistern, wellhead, half for Mr. Green, and half for Lady Red. This is the second invention, the internal cistern and the double stairs. Oh, this is the same house as Capello. We did this drawing in the catalog. My colleagues were describing you, dietro I palazzi, behind the palaces. We use it, my wife, she studies in the archives. She did the archival research. And we were able, with her archival research, with a team of 8 researchers, it was paid by the municipality's exhibition. So we had the money, it was the occasion. We discovered that the date that my master, Trincanato, gave to the buildings were wrong. She said that those houses were built in the early 17th century, but they were built 60, 70 years before, 80 years before. So you need to, when you are studying, you have to utilize different tools in your research, not just the survey, which is extremely important, but it's not enough. Now, how do you feel? Those houses were probably designed. We have still half an hour, okay? Yes. How do you feel? Can you survive for another half an hour? So it won't be time for questions. I propose to my colleagues, you can write me, my email is written, or you can write to the school, more official. They will collect your questions, and then you will send me, and I will answer you. So we will have more time. So this is Sansovino, probably. It's not yet certain. The grand architect who did, in the Terreni Nuovi, he built those 2 terraced houses, 10 houses each. And I am very fond of this one because I found something important. This is the file of the survey of the Venetian cisterns in the battle of the civil engineer Giuseppe Bianco, 1858-59. He did the survey of all the Venetian cisterns. That image you saw before, with all the bluish little dots, 6,500 cisterns. The 11% of the area of Venice is collected with the water collection. So just to give you the load of this information. So he says, he provides you see, cistern number 516, 517, and so forth. We are in the Case d'Anna, in this building. And he says, who is the owner, where is it, how big is the cistern, the filter, how deep is it? I forgot to tell you that the depth of a cistern is written 10 Venetian feet, which means 3 meters 50, 3 meters 60. No more than that. It's dangerous to dig more because suddenly a sort of a geyser of salty water could come out from your excavation and it will be very hard to close it. So stop. Apart from in the quarter of dorso duro. What does it mean, dorso duro? Duro means hard. Dorso means, in this case, land. Here, you can dig up to 5 meters 50. So it will be much larger, much deeper system, safely, without surprises. So he says that the cistern provides capacità, Roman number 9, capacità, you have 63 square meters of sponge, the limit of the cistern. And you have, with that, a certain amount of water where is somewhere. So he says, then he says quality of the water, it was tasted. You can imagine how many Delhi belly the poor drinkers had. And how much conditions of the water providing system and the cost for the restoration. It was his fight against the French aqueduct, which was in discussion in Venice, in order to provide the city of Venice of an aqueduct, bringing fresh water from the mainland and abandoning the ancient way. He wanted to restore it. He kept it. It was important. Also for the restoration of the houses, it was important, because it means that you have to keep the roof in good conditions, the gutter, the pipes for the water coming down, and so forth. So, in this house, where hundreds of students of mine and guests came, because I am friend of the owner, he's an architect, he was digging here, and he owns a cistern. We were able to look at the foundation plinth, the upper part of it, in red, and then look at this brownish, greenish-brownish color, that the waterproofing, that's the clay. And then you have the sand. But we were able to do the survey. And we were able to discover that the cassone, the box number 4, cassone, is little. The water comes from that hole that you see on the right-hand side below. Pipes, clay pipes, one and the other, coming from the gutter and going to the cassone. You see there is a small square in it. There is a lid. You remove the lid, and once a year, you can go down with your hands and clean it, especially by birds, feathers, and things like that. Then the sand. But digging deeper, we found that the Venetian foundations are not continuous. In some cases, especially in the cases of the double houses, where you have the internal cisterns, the foundations are not continuous. There is, look at the cross-section, R means relieving arch. Why? To enlarge the dimensions of the sponge. So those houses have not just the first room, sand, cistern, sand, and water, but at least another 2. So altogether, you have to triple the quantity, the dimensions of the sponge, and the quantity of water that you collect. This was useful to me. I presented the project to the Kyoto 2nd or 3rd World Fair on the water. And we presented a project to reutilize the internal system, not as drinkable water, but as water, supply water for the toilets. It's a pity to utilize good fresh water coming from the mountains now with the aqueduct for the toilets. So that was the project. So you can see now quite clearly how a Venetian structure in terms of foundation and the importance of the collection of water. Now we are halfway. Now this is one of the most important buildings. It's even a monument, but it is not. If you start counting the major openings, you will see the triple window are 1, 2, 3, and 4. The noble floors are 2, containing the triple windows, 3 bay windows, and so you have 4 tenements. Or better, in a tenement you have 4 houses, which are built in that piece of land, just with a little square. Square is a site where they restore boats, gondolas, and things, very near to the school, to this, the church of the Frari, with the bell tower, and the church of San Rocco. The building is the one that you see between, right in the middle, behind the school of San Rocco and behind the church. Now, that's it. Piani dei Stabili, number 4. The red rectangle down below is the site, is the building. And this is the area of it, the school of San Rocco on the right. Scuola is not a teaching place. Scuola is the place where many members of the society, no noblemen, citizens and poor people were registered. There were 5,000 people, members of the school. And the school was helping them, building poor people's housing, providing dowry for the young girls who wanted to marry and were very poor, hospitals and things like that. And then the church. Now, the architect is Lo Scarpagnino. Lo Scarpagnino, he came from the area of Milano. He arrived here working in the Fondaco dei Tedeschi in 1505, and the church of San Sebastiano, thank you. The school of San Rocco, he was working here the last years, and the house of I 10 Savi alle Decime, the financial department of the Republic of Venice after the fire, and he did this. And he's the same who described in the year 1534 to the school of San Rocco, to the top leaders, the double house. And he says, I want to build a tenement which is of 5 houses with 2 noble floors, so that the houses will be 10. Because 5 by 2 makes 10. How do you dare, you, to explain me, Paolo Danna, the head of the school, I'm doing merchandise, I know very well how multiplications I do. And then he says, each house will have his own cistern, pozzi calls it, wells. And each one will be divided in 2, so the 10 houses will have 10 cisterns. And then he provides the height of each floor, how many feet, the composition, a ground floor, 2 noble floors, a top mezzanine, and the attic divided between the 10. And this is the birth so far of the double house. And the project has been accepted and not built. It's the area of the Phoenicia theaters today. It has been built something by the Scuola, quite a large area, but without this building. It doesn't fit into the place. So they built something different. But what matters is the records of this invention. And this is the invention of double house. Now, going on in our investigations, you know that, you're architects, all of you, probably. And so you know what a Gantt, or what is the other name, the time record of, when you're building a house, you have to describe all the stages. So you have the years, the months, and then you have the blacksmith, the stonemason, floor layers, cisterns, mason, painter, architect, carpenter, window, carpenter. The little white dots are the money which was paid, and we have the records, but it's not completed. But what we did was also, with a very good survey of another student, former student of mine, we did, this is the ID of this building. So you have the bill of quantities. And with the bill of quantities, you know how many cubic meters of, how you excavated for the foundations and the cisterns, how many cubic meters you built of masonry, for foundations, walls. The timber, the structural timber, beams, purlins, floors, stairs. The timber for more simple, for stairs and fixtures. The floors, the terrazzo floor, you know, something like 1870 square meters of terrazzo floor. Then you have the roof with other things, thin bricks and tiles, thin bricks supporting the tiles, and then you have the stone, 112.59 cubic meters of stone, and then you have the plaster, external and internal. If you compare the quantity of stone of a palace with the minor architecture, let's call it minor so far, but it's not so minor, you will see that what is really minor is the quantities. There is much less stone in the minor architecture than the one in the palaces. And the stone is most expensive building materials. Heavier, fairer as provisions, difficult to carve and to prepare the pieces. And so this is important. In the thesis of my student, Stefano Luca, he found out, with the help of the Gantt diagram and the surveys we did, and the, what's the name, and the bill of quantities, he proposed that the entire building costed 5,800 and so ducats to the school. So now, bill of quantities, and now let's go on. This is the ground plan. From the four colors, you have the four entrances, the four cisterns. Those are the foundations. No piling here, because it was far enough from the... Piling is very expensive. But you use it only in front of the water, where the land is very, very poor, the bearing capacity. So a double layer of thick boards, 8 centimeters each, more or less, 8 and 8 make 16, and you will build what is called lo zatterone, the big barge. It's fantastic, the word which has been used. The barge is something which floats on the poor land, usually on the water, but in this case, on the poor bearing land. And then a piece of blocks of the white, you see on top of the plinth, you have the blocks. And that's important because they are bigger than the bricks, so connects in a way the foundations with the rest of the construction, and it's also waterproof. That's it, it's still there on the right. And then the cisterns. Those are, according with the survey of Engineer Giuseppe Bianco, the small sponge, house number 1 and house number 2. So this is it. The height is perfect because it's easy to measure the height. 100 and something years ago. No mistakes. What the mistakes were in the dimensions of the sponge. This is our surveys from what I found. You see house number 4, top right. We surveyed the shaft in red, ring, and we surveyed also, in the other way around, 2 relieving arches. This is a relieving arch, not there. Here you can see it better, the water coming from the red dots, coming from the roofs, and providing water inside the cassone, the big box. And you see what we imagine, what we suppose will be the foundation with all those relieving arches. And that's it. This is the discovery. Last year it came out. You can see the relieving arch. You can hardly see because It's a little bit dirty, but those are bricks. You see them on the inferior line. You recognize them. We surveyed it, and you can demonstrate with this that the foundations, as in the Anna houses before by Sansovino, are not continuous. This is a big discovery, because everybody thinks, engineers, top engineers, no, Venetian foundations are continuous everywhere because the house has to stand. But it's not like that. From 1534. So, a cassone, another building site, a big box. This is Castelforte San Rocco. Now I will run Castelforte San Rocco, house number 1. And then from that point on, after the excavation and the building of the cistern, you have big boats bringing building materials as bricks, sand, water, stone, and of course timber. This is the perimeter stone, and then at the 4 sides they decided to build 4 not columns, 4, come si chiamano? I pilastri? Cantonal is the Venetian name. Pilasters, squarish, with other elements on top of it to link well the masonry and to show to everybody the limits of the building. Now, this is my land. This is Castelforte San Rocco. And here we studied also with the laser scanner, another thesis of a student of mine, what was going on. Red is projecting masonry. Why? Most probably, it was the timber, the beams of the roof, which got rotten. So, flattening down, they start pushing out. Important things this to understand what you are going to do. And then, while you are building the masonry, at a certain point you start with the first windows, you insert that block of stone, the sill, with holes, and then the other 2 side stones with holes, and then you go on with the masonry. When you reach the top of it, you insert first the grate. The grill is unbreakable. Nobody can force it. It goes inside. So, sill. You take it in your hands and you put it in the holes. Then, on the right and on the left, you close it with the 2 blocks with the holes. And then you do it on top of it. Top of it, this is unbreakable. Inferriata alla galeotta. Galeotta is the convicted, good for the gallery. And you see that, how it works. Look on the left-hand side, you see that one bar, the upper bar, is continuous and it goes through 2 holes of the vertical ones. But the vertical ones, going down, they do the same, getting inside the second element and then the third. So it's intertwined. On top of it, you have to build another relieving arch if you want to, that your stone doesn't break. And then you start filling it in the masonry, spaces for the pipes. On the left, you can see the water pipe from the gutter down to the cistern. And on the right, you see the shit pipe. I apologize for the word, but that's correct. And this is a Venetian toilet. That box that you see on the right, at the beginning of the column, is the toilet. Those are water pipes, one in the other, another. My collection is growing. There is a lid all around to secure the one element to the next. And those are 4 toilets with just one big pipes element. which is 22, 23 centimeters diameter. The others are 12, 13 centimeters. They are glazed. The terracotta is glazed, so it's waterproof in both cases. This is a Venetian toilet. You open the lid and you empty your chamber pot results. Another one. And those are the sheet pipes of the Fenice Theater. I found them during the restoration. I was working in the restoration before the fire. And so, members of my collection, they will go in a little museum in Castelforte next year. And look at the pipe, the sheet pipes. They are half external and half internal. So now the two bottom are big ones. The white thing is the washing machines, the detergents, but the internal, no, it's not the churn, it's other stuff. And the exhaust is in the canal. And it's fantastic, the fact that you're reading a bill, 1558, describing what you intend to do in your project. You are the architect. And you say, the foundations, the plinths will be from 5 to 6 feet high. Depends from the land you are going to see, to encounter. But any case, the zatterone, the barge, will come out half a foot from the plinth. And now in this case, you see more clearly that this is the limit, which is half a foot. When there is a combination between the description, the written description, and the reality, you know? I got very much excited with this kind of things, but maybe I am a little bit maniac about it. Anyhow, the level of the exhaust must be lower than the minimal sea tide, so that, you know, of course. But there are other pipes. Those are reverse inserted in this way into the masonry, and they are called canoncini, little guns of campanello. Inside there is a come si dice?
Bello.
For the bell, yes. Look, house number, the bell. Well, you don't see the bell, but you see the place where there was the handle of the bell, on the right-hand side, near the campanelli, right? That piece of iron on the right, another one lower, and on top of it, the support, external support for the movement of the string, iron string. Here you see it better. The handle was down below, two handles commanding two different bells. And here, in Castelforte San Rocco, second noble floor, you have the surviving bell. And we have to be grateful to a Swiss foundation, Amstrand Foundation, for not very famous artists in Switzerland. They can go there, they can apply, ask to stay there 2-3 months for free, for nothing, to improve their creativity there. It's a nice foundation, I love that. And this is it. This is the first noble floor. And now you know why the two bays, the external bays of the building of Castelforte are bigger than the central ones, because you have to fit the staircase in that. And the staircase Let's talk a little bit later. Those are the beams of the floors, very well surveyed by Roberto Vaglio. And you see, it's like the bridge of a ship. They're very close one to the other, as described in the treatises of Scamozzi, for instance, who gives you the dimensions of the beams. Here, another document, 1558, who explains that the floor will be done with the beams, double layer of boards, iron cramp on the boards, nailed into the boards and the beams, look at this section, and inserted the end of this metal piece of connection into the stone, which is number 2. Fiuba. Fiuba means the, come si dice la cintura?
Bell.
Oh, the bell, sorry. This is the fiuba. And that's a nice drawing of a student. And you could say that you disagree with this drawing. Look at the cross-section. You see that the height is inferior than the base of the beam, right? I mean, the base of the beam is larger than the height. But this is Galileo Galilei, our genius, who studies what happens to a cantilever with a certain load, E, and what is the representation of this, of the cantilever, of this beam? Wrong. So it was the way to build up to at least the late 17th century, when the theories, mathematical theories of building science started growing. So, a sawmill in Austria, and I didn't do that to discover how they were posed. The double layer of boards. And this is the link between the floors and the external walls, which is very important. You have to link them. You see them? Look at the right image. The piece of stone is a reverse end of a Gothic window, reused. And that's it. You can see from that little brownish color on the right, first stone chain on the right, and another one here, less visible, on the left. They are crossed, like in my bathroom during the restoration of my place. You see, they are crossed, internal and external. Now, the major windows of Castelforte San Rocco, and we continue with the stairs. Now, those are the stairs. Again, don't take pictures of the cistern, it's wrong, sorry. And what is correct are the staircases. The staircases here, well, I will go by memory because we don't have time. Leonardesque, they are called the Leonardesque staircases. If you go in a department store, you will see them with a mobile, escalators. Just insert 2 masonry walls in the middle, external in the middle and internal, you have created the double stairs. So they were invented by Leonardo da Vinci dans le Château de Chambord for the King of France. And es escalera doble del castillo. This is a double stair of the castle. One for the landlord and one for his tenants. Now, those are the stairs, double stairs, surveyed by an Proto, just a few years later, the construction of the stairs on the project of Scamozzi. You may have heard of Vincenzo Scamozzi. He wrote a treatise of architecture, the idea of universal architecture, 1615, Venice. And there he explains lots of things. For instance, he explains the dimensions of the beams in case of a certain span. He explains the way of building a capriata. Capriata.
Trusses. Truss. No structure.
Dunque, the rafters, the tie beam, the two king posts, the queen tie beam, the king, and then the rafters.
Yeah, the bracing.
I can't remember the name, sorry, I'm a little bit tired. Rafter,
It's
they are
bracing, I think.
capriata in Italian.
I see.
Don't worry. In French, I don't remember. Well, sorry, it's here somewhere. I have to dig. Anyhow, so he did this. Trusses. Thank you. Truss. He writes that the trusses, his trusses, must be built with 9 pieces of wood. Tie beam, which could be built with more than 1 piece. Then, as I said before, so they are 9 together and they fit with the Castelforte one. He completed the building of the Sansovino, Procuratie Nuove in St. Mark's Square. And 3 or 4 years later, another architect did the survey of it because there was a complaint. The procurators of St. Mark, I must take my piece of paper here because I don't remember the numbers. They were arguing in the Senate and they said, listen, we are very happy to live there because the procurators of St. Mark were obliged to live here in the square and have their office in the same place together. And they had the first noble floor had 10 bays per each house. And the second noble floor, the same. But to reach the second floor, they had, I'm coming, they had sorry. Next time you invite me, provide a...
Would you like?
No, it's fine, I can manage. Anyhow, the steps to reach the first noble floor are 46 here. And the height is 6 meters 95, almost 7 meters. I am a procurator. I am 70. I can't walk. I can fall down by the stairs. But Scamozzi wrote, the base of the flight will be divided into 2, will be the height. So the height will be half the base. So that the pendenza, the slope will be 50%. 105, 50%. Now, and this is the cross section. They complained, we complained, we are senior people. And we decided Because to reach the other floor, the second noble floor, they will have to reach 14 meters, 0.78, almost 15 meters. They have to walk on 95 steps every day, every night. So it's hard work. But it's respected. Now, if we compare this with the stairs in Castelforte San Rocco, this building, we are approaching to the Swiss Foundation apartment, second noble floor. House number 2. We have the pendenza, the slope is 85%, from 50 to 85. That's why the 2 side bays are shorter, are longer than the medium ones. You need space for that. Now, other cases, San Basilio, another building, that's 85%, the slope, both noble floors. Castelforte, 85, and 88 to the second floor. San Simeon Profeta, 85 and 87. Gallion, 72. 85, Case d'Anna, the 10 and 10. Bonazza, 90, approaching to 45 degrees. But still, houses, decent houses. Contarina, 87. Sant'Antonin, 102, more than 45. But the communist approach comes here. The poor people's houses. Corte dei Preti, built in very early 16th century. Very poor people. The slope is 117. And you may say, the only example you provide. I have a second one. Calle Lanza, early 16th century, for 4 poor widows, 112. The slope is 112. So you can imagine this. The poor people, they must be very athletic, you know? And so from the noble, 50%, to the middle class, Venetian citizens, Castelforte San Rocco, 85, to 112, 120, poor people. You see the class differences. Karl Marx will be, if he were here with us, he will applaud. He will say, fantastic, you are one of my people. You are proving it in the reality, not just the money, but also in the living conditions. A research that a student or a scholar of social history could investigate how many people were taken from those poor houses to the hospital because they fell down and they broke their legs and they remained. You know, history is very helpful to understand the reality. Now, those are double stairs in Castelforte San Rocco. Let's run in another building. Again, we are back in Castelforte San Rocco. They were in wood. They were built in wood. The flights were in wood. But then early 17th century, one of them said a nearby building was burned. The people were killed because they couldn't escape. So I want to pay with my money the stone, the conversion into stone, and they did. And then when Napoleon arrived, he sold public auction all the apartments, and the apartments started their division. There were 4 houses, now they are 18. So, and those are inventions, fantastic inventions, in order to utilize the same stairs with a mini stair at the landing. Now, some images of the first noble floor of Castelforte San Rocco. The Swiss foundation. Second noble floor. And, you know, it's very, very decent. Very nice. And this is it. The thesis of Roberto Vaglio, and you can see the little white spots where you have the stone elements on the facade to link the floors with the vertical masonry. So in case of moving, the iron chains will start pulling. And so it will be a balance between the two actions. The roof of Castelforte, with many changes, of course, in time. And this is the cross-section. When you see that, it's like an oriental roof. The two final elements are roundish, like a pagoda. Why? Well, to reduce the speed of the water so it doesn't go over the two gutters. Because after that, inside the walls, you will have that. Now, this is it. How one of the Castelforte roof was built. 13 trusses, right? Plus the minor semi-trusses on the sides. That's it. Today, how it is? That's still there. Another building. Again, you see that the sloping of the roof is oriental, not because of Marco Polo, but simply to reduce the speed of the water. Internal restoration, the wood coming from the Dolomites, fir tree, red fir, and large tree. They came from the forests, cut during the winter, taken down to the river, building the barges. No, throwing the trunks, I tronchi, by fruitation to the sawmills. There they were cut into beams and other wood elements. The beams were put together in order to create the barges. The barge will stop in Longarone, at the entrance of the valley of Forno di Zoldo. Forno is furnace, where the iron came. The grids have all the iron, the nails, and so forth. And this is Castelforte. We are ending Castelforte San Rocco. You see the paintings. It has been frescoed, the two facades facing the arrival of the Doge once a year to celebrate, to go his procession to the school, which is on the right, the school, must be beautiful. So they were painted by a painter, by Trient, and Vitrulio dal Buon Consiglio, with a fee of 45 ducats, he frescoed the entire two facades. And he did, to grid the fresco, the rendering of the fresco, to grid more to the first plaster, he used a comb and he did those diagonal signs, still there. This is the party, celebration, the feast of San Rocco. In the right hand side, at the right of the Scuola, you can see the color of the other two elevations of Castelforte, which is Coccio-Pesto, which has broken tiles and mortar, and you will have cheaper and also quite beautiful with the strings and so forth. This is Castelforte today, after the restoration. I wrote a critique to this kind of, because the monumentalization of the former, this, I agree with this. It's a fantastic. But if you're doing it, why you are using this shabby, yellowish yellowish, grayish color. It doesn't celebrate the beauty of the ancient. This is brand new, of course, where it was already fallen down or in bad condition. But it's not a good composition for me. And my answer will be, I will propose to the Board of Monuments, let's make it in Cocciapisto. So you will have the red frame showing the new, and in the middle, the piece, the paintings, that's a monumentalization, I would say. You have to be courageous sometimes. And this is the plaster in the side, which is fine, sure. But some pipes are, are there in copper. So this red color was very common in Venice. And this is the terrazzo floor. Terrazzo floor, this is one piece of the terrazzo floor, and there's 10 different kinds of terrazzo floor in Castelforte San Rocco. The darker are with the cement, the lighter, more old, are with the lime mortar. Chimneys, bell chimneys is called, again, Venezia come. You see the grid, which is windproof and fireproof. The top grid, sort of a cage with holes, so the little sparkles will be stopped by the external, and also the wind will be stopped. Or this kind of things. This is a survey I did to explain how it works and how it ends up, with the gas heating and the gas kitchen. This is the future of the ancient chimney pots, because they are no more in use. And those are the houses of, probably, of Sansovino. You see the diffusion of this. Here is in 90% the slope of the stairs. Double houses by the Scuola di San Rocco, or more noble those in Calle degli Avvocati. This model, the double house, was very, very popular as in investment for the changes of economy from the ship economy, the merchandise economy from the East, because the Dutch, the English, the French, the Spanish, they started dealing in the Mediterranean Sea. And so the power of Venice was reduced. E allora they invested in the mainland, building the villa. But that's another project. This is 1609. Internal system. You can see the half shafts in the ground floor. That's the end of my lecture. Thank you for your patience. We have to thank him. He was fantastic. And there is not a monography on him. Because the Tafuri-like people, I hated. He was the head of the Department of History. I suffered. I suffered a lot. Because...
But he actually, in both Venice and the Renaissance and Ricerca del Rinascimento, he spoke about Sansovino's Casemoro and...
Casemoro, what else? What else? Casemoro.
But he also spoke about Scarpagnino in Venice and the Renaissance.
Of course, but his comment was quite negative about him. Second-class architect. Minor. Minorita. Good. So, I think you must be very tired, long day. What's the time?
No, thank you so much. This was a really fantastic lecture because...
Don't exaggerate.
No, it was because, it's about Venice, a city that we are, in one way or another, very familiar, but the the way in which you really reveal its anatomy through one project is really revealing, and I really invite you to discover, to see actually your work, because you actually wrote extensively, and as I told you before, your work, which, as you said, follow also the steps of Egler and Ada Trincana, someone who we should really celebrate.
Her book is being translated into English, and it will appear in a few months' time.
Okay, great. And she actually was a very important architect. I mean, she was a researcher on Venice, but she was also an architect and a planner. She worked with Giuseppe Samona.
Of course.
So she's really someone who combined historical research, but also design.
Design and planning, yes.
And planning, and so it's a very unique figure that unfortunately has been kind of forgotten in Italy. So I hope, and this publication you mentioned, which will really be an opportunity to revisit her work. And I'm so glad that you did this presentation, because it really, I mean, we are also a bit Tafurian here, but I agree with you.
It's not enough.
I agree with
It's
you.
not
that,
enough. This is unbearable to me. Such a brilliant person.
Yes.
Big brain. Fantastic. Although he smoked cigar. Terrible. Toscanelli. Stinky Toscanelli. Much worse than the smell of the sweat of the workers. And this is unbearable to me. The myopia, the blindness. You know, we can do things together. We have to do things together. Because I brought you something for you. You haven't read that one. Venice, the other 90%. It's Ananke rivista.
Yes.
And number 37. I have a spare copy for you. And that's the point. What about the other 90%? If you miss it, good night. Thank you. I enjoyed it.